There's no such thing as a question that should or needs to be diagrammed. You just need to slow down and understand what you're actually reading.
Hello and welcome to episode 473 of the Thinking LSAT podcast. I'm Ben Olson. With me is Nathan Fox. We're the co-founders of LSATdemon.com and the LSAT Demon Daily podcast. Be LSAT famous. Share news and ask questions on our website, thinkinglsat.com. Coming up on Thursday, September 26th, we have a free class with Brandon. That class is Getting Motivated for the LSAT. Apparently, Brandon is going to talk exclusively about motivation, study skills, how to get better at the LSAT, focusing on what mindset you should have. So, yeah, interesting.
Fantastic.
Should be a good class. Yeah.
Come join us, lsatdemon.com/free.
The day before that, the September LSAT scores will be released. When they do, of course, we want to hear your good stories and your bad ones. We love to know what's going on out there.
We always get a bunch of both. We always get a bunch of people hysterically saying, oh my God, it was the hardest test ever. It's totally different and weird and strange. And then we also get a mountain of emails saying, yep, it was just like all my practice tests. Nothing special, nothing different. I think I killed it. And it just never really changes.
Wow, that's interesting. So the day of this class is, of course, right after the score release. And then that same day, we have the November LSAT registration deadline. That's a good class to go to. If you didn't like your results from the September LSAT, then go to that class, because hopefully that will turn you around and help you look at the bigger picture.
Well, it might help people make a better decision about whether to register for the November test or not, right? People, lots of times, they look at their official score and then they think, based on my official score, should I register for the November test? And it's unfortunately your official score, if you did take the September test, I mean, that's only telling a tiny fraction of the story, because that's just one data point. And what really matters is all the other data points that you've been accumulating in a range of possible outcomes. So yeah, I mean, if you did really well, then I guess there's a chance that you would not want to register for the November test, because you just don't think that there's really a chance that you can score higher. But what people do wrong is they look at a bad official score and they go, well, because I scored poorly 3 weeks ago, that means I'm not ready to take it in 6 weeks from now, because the registration deadline is 6 weeks ahead, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So they do like a bad analysis where they overweight their official result, and they think that that is more indicative of like what their real potential is. And we would like to flip you into a different mindset where really it's about your practice tests and it's about all the scores within your range. Hopefully you've done another practice test since your official test 3 weeks ago, and you've got other data points to consider before you decide whether you want to register.
Yeah. I mean, also, I think there's the flip of that, right? Where people do poorly on the September LSAT and then they say, oh, no, okay, so I better take it in November. That's because they're trying to cram in an application.
Right. Well, that's just
as opposed to, looking
that's
at
like magical thinking or something, where it's just like, just this like, well, I know that score is not good enough, so I have to take it again now. And it's like, well, okay, but do your practice tests indicate that you're actually a good bet to score higher? Because if not, then why, like, what are you going to do different this time? You just think you're just going to get lucky this time, or you're going to actually study this time? Or, I mean, what is it that you're going to do differently? And a more savvy applicant is studying regularly, a little bit every day, and getting better steadily, increasing their understanding of the test. And then the practice test scores start to reflect this increased understanding. There's still going to be a lot of variance up and down. And your official tests, if any, there's just going to give you another data point within that range. It could be the bottom of the range, could be above the range. If you do something really weird or different, it could be outside of that range, which is not great usually, because your surprises are usually on the downside. But the point is, you should really let your practice test results guide whether you're ready to take the official test. Anyway.
100%. Yeah. To sign up for Brandon's class, you can just go to lsatdemon.com/free. Again, that's lsatdemon.com/free. We do have a PSA for people applying this fall. This is coming from Kai. The subject line is waived application fees? Question mark.
Hi, Ben and Nathan. A lawyer recently told me that I should negotiate with the schools I apply to for them to cover or waive my application fees. Parentheses. This is not with an LSAC fee waiver. She said that she would email or call law schools and ask if they'd waive their fees. End parentheses. Have you ever heard of this? I've been listening to the podcast and immersing myself in information, but I had never heard of this before. Appreciate your insight.
Yeah, we hear about this all the time. Now, to be clear, there are two types of application fees. There's the fee you have to pay the school, and there's the fee that you have to pay LSAC through the Credential Assembly Service.
Mm-hmm.
That's $45. That one is much less likely to get waived because it's a fee that is presumably billed by LSAC.
Yeah, the school does have the ability to waive that fee. We've learned that they have the ability on the back end of their, like the way they connect with LSAC, they have a way that they can waive that fee. But I believe that they have to pay the fee on your behalf, that $45 fee. And so they're going to have to really want your application in order to waive that $45 fee. But there's a bigger fee, the first fee, the fee that's charged by the schools in order for you to apply to their school. Not every school even has an application fee. A lot of schools have just decided, hey, look, let's be savvy. We're going to charge these people $60,000 a year to come to our school. Why do we need to try to get $100 out of them for the application fee? Right?
Yeah.
So a lot of schools have just dropped the $100 application fee, or what, around 100, right? Is what the schools.
I mean, the 75? Number I have in my head is 75, but yeah, I'm sure it's
probably gone up. Let's say around $100 per school, but those are completely optional because that's just a transfer from you to the school, and they can easily just say, "Oh yeah, don't even worry about it. Just go ahead and apply." So yes, the answer is yes. Listen to this lawyer who was telling you that you can talk to the schools and get them to drop their application fees. If you go to an LSAC forum or any kind of a forum where like law schools are there and tabling, if you stop by the table, they frequently will just unsolicited offer you an application fee waiver. But even if you don't see them in person, I mean, same thing probably at a campus visit, but you can also just call them or even probably email them. But the point is ask. One way or the other, please ask. I remember this was years ago, but a student of mine applied to 30 schools and got 27 out of 30 application fees waived. So
yeah,
that could have changed, and it could be different at different schools. But so many schools now have just dropped their application fee entirely that the ones that do have application fees, I have a feeling it's kind of like it's there just so they can drop it.
I think it is, yeah. So they can act like they're giving you something, and now you feel a bit of indebtedness to them.
Yeah, it's like when the gym, normally we charge an initiation fee. But if you sign this contract today, we can waive the application fee, and you can just pay us $200 a month for a year.
Yeah,
that's kind of how this goes down. Anyway, thank you, Kai. Yes, you can get application fees waived. What's next? Looks like Kaylin is emailing, asking, can I get a low 160s by only answering 18 questions in each section? I would say absolutely, hell yeah. Can I just do the math?
Sure, go for it.
Well, I mean, if you only do 18 questions but get them right, that's 18 points. Plus, you're going to randomly guess on the remaining, on logical reasoning, there would be 7 questions remaining, right? Times 2, because there's 2 of those sections. So there's 14 guesses from logical reasoning. On reading comprehension, you would have 9 questions remaining. Reading comp usually has 27 questions.
Yep.
So you'd have 9 questions remaining. So 7 plus 7 is 14, plus 9 is 23. Those 23 questions that you don't attempt, you do get to guess. So you bubble in a random guess, and you should get 1 out of 5 of them right.
So 4 to 5 points there, right?
Yeah. So let's round down. Let's be
Mm-hmm.
pessimistic and say, okay, so on average, that's going to be, yeah, it is between 4 and 5, but let's say
Mm-hmm.
4 on
Mm-hmm.
average, you're going to get right.
Yep.
So that's going to result in a score of 18 times 3 is 54,
Plus 4.
plus
Yep.
4 is 58. What's 58 give you on the most recent LSAT
Well, on
or on a
158,
recent LSAT?
yeah, at least the highest numbered LSAT, which is the default test in our score converter. You can find that at lsatdemon.com/converter. Test 158, 60 points. I'm sorry, 58 points gives you a 160. Exactly. So,
Okay. So there you go. Anyway.
Kaylin, did you know the answer before you asked it? I mean,
Do you want to read Kaylin's actual
Sure.
email though?
Yeah. Hi, Ben and Nathan. When I do a section, I'm focusing on accuracy, not speed. I usually get 90% accuracy rate when I only attempt 16 or 17 questions. In episode 468, you said the speed will eventually follow, but I'm worried that I'm still not seeing improvement in terms of the number of questions I can complete in a given section, even though the ones I do attempt, I get right. Can I take the test with the mindset of only completing about 18 questions with 100% accuracy and then guess on the remainder? Thanks, Kaylin.
Yes, you can. But not today, Kaylin, because today you're only getting 90% accuracy on 16 or 17 questions.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to do 18 questions with 100% accuracy when you're only actually doing 16 or 17 questions with 90% accuracy is misguided. You should be aiming for 100% accuracy on the questions you attempt, no matter how many questions you're attempting. And you really have to get rid of the idea that you're going to have two goals at once. There's no such thing as I got to be accurate, but I also have to go fast. Let the accuracy solve your speed problem. Just focus on accuracy. The test, I promise you, the test gets easier and easier and easier if you just focus on solving each question. Just solve each question. The wrong answers start to look terrible and the right answers start to look right. And you will get faster, but really the easiest way to make transformative improvement in your LSAT score is to focus only on understanding, not on speed at all. So just note Kaylin's language here because she's very representative, I think, of most students. She says, I'm focusing on accuracy, not speed. You said the speed will eventually follow, but I'm worried that I'm still not seeing improvement in terms of the number of questions I can complete in a given section. And it's like, yeah, but Kaylin, I give zero shits about that. The thing that I care about is the 10% of questions that you're missing. You're missing 10% of questions, Kaylin. You're not getting paid for those 10% of questions that you're missing. And for every one you miss, there's another one that you didn't really quite understand, right? So Kaylin is doing the test with like a little bit of kind of guessing and not really understanding. Now, all that said, you're doing a great job, Kaylin, on a big chunk of your questions. Like 80% of your questions, I feel like you know the answer to. But 10% you're missing and 10% you're getting lucky on. And so you're still not doing it quite our way, all the way. Stop trying to do 18 questions. Don't even try to do 17 or 16. Don't try to do any number of questions. Just focus on solving them. Feel like I've solved it, then move on to the next one. Write us back after another month of that, and let's see where you're at, Kaylin.
Yeah, so a revision of this would almost be in episode 468, you said the speed will eventually follow, but I'm worried about the 10% that I'm missing. That would be a lot more interesting. That's the mindset you should have and not even be worried. Just look at them as opportunities. Every time you get a question wrong, it's the LSAT. And this is, of course, I got from you, Nathan, but it's the LSAT telling you what you don't understand.
Oh, yeah.
And so then it's like a gift. It's saying, hey, if you can get yourself to understand this fully and explain it to a study buddy or at least your imaginary friend, then you're in a much better position to get those kind of questions right in the future.
Yeah, your mistakes are the test telling you, here's what you don't get. There's also, though, that like shadow 10%, right? For the 10% that you're missing, Kaylin, there's another 10%, I think, that are okay. Well,
Sure. Yeah.
here
Yeah.
you got the wrong side of you narrowed it down to two, and on some of them you got them wrong, and the test is
Hmm.
going to say, hey, you got that one wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's the other ones that you had narrowed down to 50-50 and got it right. And those ones you don't really get either, Kaylin. And those questions, even though you're getting them right, they are slowing you down. So you got to focus on accuracy, Kaylin. Just solve the questions. Trust me.
Yeah, I want to say one more thing too before we go on to the next one. It's almost like you want to bring back that why that a lot of us had when we were kids. You know how you just ask why
Oh,
about
yeah,
everything?
sure. Yeah.
You want to bring that back, and even if you get questions right, it's if there's something that you're not sure about, dig into it. Ask why. Ask, okay, what type of question is this? How do I answer these types of questions? Is that how I answered this type of question? Why didn't I do that here? Why didn't I understand that? How is that different from what I did? All those sort of questions just unlock pathways and make them so much more solid. And that's how you get faster
Yeah,
because you have a total grasp of the situation, not just a partial one.
absolutely.
Cool. Well, this next one is from Will. The subject is burnout and study schedule.
Hi, Ben and Nathan. I've been studying for the LSAT since around May of this year, and my practice tests are in the upper 150s. I think my whole way of studying during this time has been wrong. I tried to shoot for 3 to 5 hours a day, and I think this caused me to burn out. I'm planning to take the test in the late summer of next year. Do you think that dropping my LSAT study until the end of the year and resuming in January is a good idea to help combat burnout? I see Ben already shaking his head. I was also like, what, dude? Okay, Will
Yeah.
continues. Then I would probably have about 6 months to study before I would want to take the test officially. Parentheses, I am aiming for a 170. Thank you for your help. Thanks for writing in, Will. We're going to tell you that your plan sucks. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the goal. You recognize that you burned out, which is great. A lot of people don't recognize that and they keep trudging on. But the plan here isn't to stop entirely. The plan is just to dial down what you're doing. You said you tried to shoot for 3 to 5 hours a day. Okay. What's it like when you do 1 to 2 or even
Yeah.
just one?
Yeah.
And yeah, okay, fine. Take a couple days off to like regroup. But when you've been working out hard at the gym and doing 2 hour sets, and then you go to 30 minutes, it's astronomically easier. And yet you can keep making progress. Will, you just got to dial it down. In fact, what happens if you just stop entirely, you're going to start forgetting like what the mindset was. You're not going to be making any progress during that time. And then you're going to feel pressured to make the progress you want to make in the short 6 months that you have.
Yeah, the
I mean,
LSAT
6 months could be long, but I mean, yeah, anyway.
the LSAT's a skill test, and you need to practice that skill regularly to get better at it. It's
Hmm.
like, oh, you're burned out of shooting free throws. Okay, well, you don't need to shoot 5 hours of free throws every day. But the idea that, oh, I'm burned out on shooting free throws, so I'm going to wait until January to start shooting free
Practicing
throws
again.
again.
Yeah.
Whoa, dude, how about you just get in there and shoot for 20 minutes? I don't know. I would encourage you to do 1 hour a day. This is pretty much universal advice for all LSAT travelers. If you just do one high quality hour every day, I think you'll be amazed at your results. Now, some people have more time in their schedule. Some people want to make progress faster. Okay, well, then how about an hour and a half a day? How about 2 hours a day? But I want them to be high quality hours. And I have a feeling what Will was doing is, 3 to 5 pretty shitty hours, unfocused, shitty hours. And then as soon as you start to not see, it's like, wow, I'm putting all this time in, but I'm not really seeing the super results that I should be seeing. So now I get frustrated and now I get burned out. And yeah, like Ben said, I would just, reschedule your life so that you can squeeze in one high quality hour per day. And I know I keep stressing the high quality thing, but it's really important. I mean, it's just there are hours in your day that are good for stuff, and there's hours in your day that are not so good for stuff. And I have heard a million LSAT students say that they made more progress by studying in the morning than they did by studying in the evening. So, like, if Will is doing 3 to 5 hours after school or after work or whatever, then I could see how, that you're not going to be at your best. Those are going to be unfocused. Maybe you've got family around, friends around, kids around, all kinds of distractions, and instead it's like, no, I'm going to get up in the morning. Maybe I'm going to set my alarm a little earlier. I'm going to go to work early and I'm going to sit in an empty office or an empty conference room and I'm going to just do my LSAT shit for an hour. Or I'm going to stop at the Starbucks on the way to work and I'm going to put the big ass headphones on so nobody will mess with me. And I'm not going to have anything playing in the headphones because music does not help you study, kids. You're not going to be listening to music on the actual LSAT. Not a good idea to be listening to. I mean, I suppose there's kinds of music that are just totally soothing background, whatever. But man, if it has any words at all, I don't think that putting other words in while you're trying to do words is probably not a good idea. But whatever it is, find yourself an environment where you can not be distracted and just do a solid hour. I think you'll be amazed at your results, Will. Take a few days off, not a few months off, and get back on the horse with a more civilized study schedule.
The last
Anything
thing
more
I'd
for
say,
Will? Yeah.
yeah, the last thing I'd say is that, hey, Will, you're planning to take the test in late summer of next year. I like the fact that you're willing to give it the time it needs to get the best score you can get. But I would say change your mindset to be ready to take the test whenever your practice scores
Yeah.
suggest that you're ready. That could be in January. That could be
Right.
in April.
Yeah.
Who knows? So
I
don't
wonder where that
prevent yourself. Yeah.
that late summer of next year could be coming from a lot of different sources. One is I can see like there's a rational case for it. I'm not saying it's a good case. There's just a case that people might make. They'll say, well, I'll have the summer off and I'll be able to study full time.
Mm-hmm.
So then I want to take the test in late summer. Okay. I
Yeah.
understand the theory. I think it's a bad plan though, because
Yeah.
if you start practicing regularly, it'll be more civilized. And who knows, you might be ready way before then. Also, almost every student needs to take the test multiple times.
This is putting a lot of pressure.
You're going to have a range of practice scores. And so it's not just one test. You're going to take it multiple times. But, pre-law advisors out there, random professors you might know, random lawyers that you might know, they give all kinds of trash LSAT advice like, oh, you should take the September LSAT. The September LSAT's the best one to take. Like people say that with no evidence whatsoever. They're just like, they've got it in their mind somehow that that's the best test to take. And they just give that advice. Bullshit. That's not the best test to take. They're all the same. And you should be planning on taking it multiple times anyway. Yeah. Okay. So enough about that. Just give up on this. Like, I don't think it's a good idea to be shooting for any particular LSAT ever. Instead, you should be studying regularly. You should be monitoring your practice test scores over time. When your scores get where you want them, you register for the next official test. Simple as that. Anything more for Will?
Yeah.
Next one's from Patrick. The subject is difficulty and odd language.
Hey, Ben and Nathan. I'm currently a Demon Basic subscriber, and I've been using the Demon for a little over a month and a half now. With LR and RC, I would say I'm pretty average hitter in both sections. I'm a pretty average hitter in both sections. I can answer accurately if given each question enough time, but how is it that I find that some level 3 questions are harder than some level 4 questions? Should I pay much attention?
Sorry for whimpering. It always irritates me because this is a problem that we created for the student, right? So I just want people to take all statistics and analytics, take all of it with just a huge grain of salt. Okay. Mm-hmm. The difference between level 3 and level 4 is like on average, more people miss the level 4s than miss the level 3s on average.
Yeah, I think it's somewhat of a bell curve. So you definitely have people who, on some level four
Of
questions,
course.
yeah, are doing well on them, even though they don't normally do well on those questions. So it's
Yeah.
so
So
random.
I'd like you could day one of like complete novice scoring 135 and you could still get a level 5 right.
Yeah,
Or you could be day 600 of your LSAT studies, have practice test scores solidly in the 170s and still miss a level 1. I
yeah.
mean, shit happens. So I it's like I just kind of it makes me sad because it's like, boy, if we just didn't even show them the difficulty level, then they would never have this question and then they would just get to work on like the question that you missed. That's the one
Mhm.
that's important, not let me write a couple podcasters about how sometimes I miss level 3s but get level 4s
What does
right.
this mean? And what's the
Yeah.
deeper meaning? It's like
It's
there's no
like
meaning.
so I feel a little bit like, Patrick, it's kind of our bad for not communicating to you that just doesn't really matter. What matters is the one you missed. So I don't
Hmm.
care whether it was a level 4 or a level 3. I just want you to make sure that you review that question until you understand it and then move
Yeah.
on. That's really the only thing you should be worrying about.
Patrick continues, should I pay much attention to this difficulty level?
Yeah.
No.
So that's what we're saying. Just ignore it.
Nope. Furthermore, I have a background in law enforcement, so I'm pretty used to picking up on some pretty BS arguments. But sometimes the language of the questions, such as the use of double negatives, tend to confuse me and trip me up when understanding the argument. Are there any tips for navigating weirdly worded arguments?
Yeah. Practice. Keep doing it more. I mean, cops don't hear, you're not like reading written arguments very often, right? You're hearing somebody give you some bullshit about why they ran that traffic light or why they don't have their license or whatever it is. I understand that you hear some bullshit from people, but this is now much more of a lawyerly procedure where you're seeing the words on the page. It's like, no, this is your sworn testimony, or no, this is the language that is in the contract. And you have to just take more time in words, right, Ben? And in talking, we say all kinds of random bullshit all the time. We do not speak in like proper
Hmm.
legal language. There are
Yeah.
words that we throw in that have no logical bearing on the argument.
Hmm.
But in LSAT world, in lawyer world, every word matters. So I think the answer is you just need to slow down, Patrick, and understand that these arguments aren't going to make sense. These answer choices, even the correct answers, are not going to be worded in a way that makes them super attractive. They're going to be double negatives. There's going to be intentionally shitty writing to see if you have the lawyerly patience required to just make sense of it.
I would add that as a part of that slowing down, there are two things specifically you can do. One is you can break sentences up into smaller parts. I do this all the time. I focus on the first third of the sentence. That's not to be exact, by the way. It's
No,
just,
no.
it's just, I'm trying to illustrate that you don't have to, it's not halfway. It's not,
Right.
it's just like you're
Yeah.
reading to a point where it makes sense to stop and you say, hold on,
Well-
I'm starting to lose the vision here.
Sure. And I would just suggest that
Yeah.
every punctuation mark really matters a lot,
Mm-hmm.
right? So not just periods, but semicolons, colons, commas, dashes, parentheses, anything that they put into an LSAT argument. You want to just like, okay, they're giving you a little guide that these are probably connected ideas in some way, but frequently there's going to be a huge gap between those two ideas. And if you just try to cram it all into your brain in one go, it's not going to make any sense. Right. So you want to be like the little kid who doesn't allow their food to touch on the plate. You know what I
Sure.
mean?
Yeah.
As you're
I know
reading-
that. Yeah.
Ben's like, I got 6 damn kids. I understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's that kind of a thing, right? Like eventually we are going to let it mix and blend all those elements together in the perfect Thanksgiving bite. But at first, though, we need to
Yeah. Yeah.
understand like, okay, so you got your mashed potatoes and gravy over here, and then you
Mm-hmm.
got your turkey over here, and then you got your roasted carrots over here. And you just like look at all the elements, and then oh, I see, you're missing cranberry sauce. And that's the answer to the question.
Yeah. No, it's a great analogy. So you're breaking down sentences to understand exactly what one part of the sentence says, and then you move on to the rest, and it's going to make a lot more sense. I think the most common habit for people, right, is to read not only the whole sentence, but also just the whole logical reasoning argument. It's like it
Oh,
doesn't
yeah.
make sense, but they just keep going, and then they get to the end, they're like, "Oh, that was confusing." And then at that point, they either go into the question and then the answers, hoping that they will help them, or they go back and they reread the whole thing again at the same pace. It's like, "No, slow down and break this into small chunks." The other thing I was going to say, since you specifically mentioned double negatives, is a lot of times I replace them with a positive. So if it says not impossible, then I say, okay, so it's possible. Pretty
Yeah,
straightforward.
just remember, and there it's like you don't take it to the logical extreme, right? When they
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
it's not impossible, that doesn't mean that it's like guaranteed.
Yeah. Yep.
Not impossible means is possible.
Mm-hmm.
Could be, doesn't happen. Could be, happens every time. Wide range, right? Within possibility. So the big picture answer really to all of these questions, and I know that we're a broken record on this, but the big picture answer is you need to slow down and take your time and actually understand what it means. When people ask why LSAT Demon is different, my answer is we are for students who want to actually understand. If you don't want to actually understand what you're reading, LSAT Demon is not for you. We're not about gimmicks. We're not about tricks. We're about transforming your understanding of the test. And it really comes down to just you're not used to reading this way. You need to learn to take your time and actually understand everything that you're reading. And it's a simple tip, but we've been really successful giving that tip over and over and over. um, Good luck, Patrick, and thank you for writing in.
Yeah. This next one is from Will. The subject, another Will, presumably. The subject is small town lawyer, big college.
It's either another Will or Will's just a gunner. Either way.
Yeah.
Hi, Ben and Nathan. I joined the Demon last month, and I've been binge listening to old recordings of both your podcasts over the last few weeks. Shout out to the LSAT Demon Daily podcast. All right. Will says, I've been listening to both your podcasts over the last few weeks. I have an UGPA of 3.52 and a pre-Demon official LSAT score of 165, though my only two practice tests with the Demons so far have been a 170 and a 172. Great. Sounds like you're making progress. My long-term plan is to find or start a small firm and pursue a career in probate law. And I've heard that small town lawyers ought to look for local law schools where they can network. Apparently, those local connections are far more important than a T14 degree. What's your opinion? Should I shoot to land in a small school somewhere I'd like to live? Of course, applying to several bigger schools to have some bargaining power. Or should I go big because the degree is more important? Similarly, does a school's ranking really represent the quality of the school's education, or does it just reflect the quality of the students who are attracted to its reputation? Interesting. Thanks, Will.
Yeah, I don't know if you're going to like at least my answer here, Will, and that is you have to apply broadly both to small schools that are in areas you want to live and to big schools that you think you can get into or at least have a decent shot at. And then once the offers come back to you, the answers to these questions are going to become way more obvious. If a small town school gives you a half scholarship and you're going to have to pay $30,000 a year, but a bigger school with a much bigger reputation
Yeah.
gives you a full ride, are you even going to be asking these questions?
Yeah. I'm going through it right now with my niece, Haley, who I've talked about throughout the years on this show. She's grown up on the Thinking LSAT podcast. She's applying to high school now. Applying
College, yeah.
to colleges now. She's a senior in high school, incredibly. And she, it's a lot of like, well, where should I apply? And I'm like, I don't know, you've got pretty good grades. You should apply broadly. Yeah,
Hmm.
but where should I apply? And I'm like, well, where do you want to live? What do you want to do? Do you have any particular interests? What type of an environment do you want to be in? And that helps a bit, but we just don't know the price until you get the offers.
Hmm.
That's the scam of all higher education these days. It's not just law school, it's all higher education. You don't know the price until they make you an offer. You have to apply first before you get the price. Because they all have prices on their websites and the prices are all exorbitant on all the websites, right? They all pretend that they charge $50,000 a year.
Yeah.
And the truth is that they charge everybody a different price based on LSAT and GPA primarily. And if you apply broadly, you're going to get a range of offers. With the right LSAT, you might get some great offers from schools either in or just outside the top 14. I mean, I would think that with a 175 or something that Will seems capable of, schools like Wash U are going to come knocking, right? That's a school that's ranked in the top 20. They give out shit tons of scholarships. It's a great school. And I don't know where you're located, Will, but if you are in some small Midwestern town in Missouri or anywhere, around um, St. Louis, then a school like Wash U probably does carry more weight than some regional school that's also in Missouri.
Yeah.
But I want to back up a little bit and say a couple things here. One, I fucking love Will's long term plan. I'm like Mr. Skeptical about law school in general. But when I hear somebody say, I know what kind of law I want to do, and I want to either find a small firm and work in that firm, or I want to start my own small firm.
Hmm.
And I want to you apparently know what probate law is, and you want to do probate law. I love this plan. Like, I think Will is going to be so much more successful than so many other unfortunate applicants who think, no, I just want a job. I don't really know what I want to do, but I want to be a lawyer, but I want to make a lot of money, but I don't really know what I want to do. I'm just going to go to law school and then I'm just going to like get a job. The the upside to that plan is so limited where the upside to Will's plan is unlimited. You know, I mean, giant firms start out as small firms. Not only that, but you can make a damn good living as a solo practitioner. Lawyers charge high fees. Now, if you go to work in a small firm, the lawyer who owns the firm is going to pay you something small. And until you get like ownership in the firm, you're not going to ever really kill it. But there's an avenue to really killing it. You go do a job, a great job for one lawyer in a solo. Like, let's say there's a solo who's looking to hire one lawyer. You go there, you become indispensable to that guy's career or that girl's career or that their business, right? You go in there and you just kick ass for their business. Not only are you going to get tons of valuable experience, but eventually, after a couple of years, you're going to be like, hey, I run this firm. Like, the reality is, you never come into the office anymore. I do all of the work. You make all of the money. I'm happy here. I like the work. I like our firm. But we need to talk about the money part. And it sounds like Will might be the type of person who's interested in doing that. Because Will's not afraid to say, maybe I'll just start a small firm.
Yeah.
So I love your plan, Will. And it sounds like you've probably have attorneys tell you that small town lawyers ought to look for local law schools where they can network. And I believe them. Now, I'm not saying that a small school is better than a big school if they're in the same geographical area. I don't think that's probably true. Do you, Ben? Like some other shitty law school in St. Louis? You'd rather be at Wash U, wouldn't you?
You'd think so. I mean, you have
Okay.
more options, and yeah.
But if you live in Vancouver, Washington, you know where Vancouver, Washington is?
No.
It's a suburb of Portland. A lot of
Okay.
people cheat Oregon taxes by living in Vancouver, Washington. It's just across the border.
Mm. Mm.
If you lived in Vancouver, Washington, if that's the small town where you're looking to build your practice, then going to Wash U in St. Louis, even though it's a bigger school, more prestigious, just outside the top 14, like, yeah, that school's not going to help you network in Vancouver, Washington. I would be looking for some small school in the Vancouver, Washington area if that were my situation. Um, I know I'm talking way too much, but Will, you need to apply to like 20 schools, every school within a certain geographical radius of where you want to live. And if you don't have a certain geographical radius of where you want to live, then you just can apply broadly anywhere you think you would want to live. And boy, if Will's applying this cycle, well, maybe he's not applying this cycle. He probably shouldn't be applying this cycle.
Yeah, it's already September. Still don't have an official 170 plus on
Yeah.
record.
If
Yeah.
you're applying next cycle, Will, you'd be applying around this time next year and you'd have offers in hand. You'd start getting offers no later than January of 2026. And so then you'd be, like it sucks to wait, but like good things come to those who wait. If you do it that way, you're going to be sorting through all kinds of great offers in the beginning of 2026. And that's what I would do if I were you. Keep
Yeah.
us posted, Will. I want to hear about Will's probate law.
Yeah, certainly. This
Next
next
one.
one, I think it's
Uh,
me, right?
yeah. So this one is from Anonymous and it says official transcripts to credential assembly service.
It was listening to you that I decided to apply for academic renewal at an undergrad school I attended. I had received a failing grade for a course I enrolled in 13 years ago, and I stopped going to class. Academic renewal allowed for that F grade to not show on an official transcript. The issue for me is that I submitted all my official transcripts before applying for academic renewal. Okay. So the Credential Assembly Service, that's LSAC's tool, received both the transcripts with the F and the one without it, and they are refusing to remove the failing grade from my history because they have already seen it, despite it not being on the updated official transcript I submitted. I wish I had found your podcasts sooner. I want to share that with others, finding ways to improve grades. Do so before submitting transcripts to CAS.
CAS, again, is Credential Assembly Service. It's a thing that you have to pay the Law School Admission Council for in order to apply for all law schools. It's like the Common App for law schools. That's a bummer. I have a couple responses.
Yeah.
One, I would say thank you, and that is a good PSA. If you've got some shit on your transcripts that you think you want to sort out before sending them to LSAC and the Credential Assembly Service, maybe that would be a good way to obviate this whole problem. Two, do you think that Anonymous is at the end of the road here, or do you think that there's maybe more stuff that Anonymous could try?
It seems like there's got to be an appeals process for these decisions. The LSAC has appeals for a lot of things, so
Yeah.
I would
Before you
appeal.
even formally appeal, I might just call back. I mean, we have heard stories of getting different answers from different people depending on who you talk to on the phone. So you
Mhm.
might have gotten a poorly trained rep who didn't understand that they have the ability to scrub old transcripts and put in new transcripts and rerun the analysis. I'm just speculating, but that's
Yeah.
possible, I think. And I could be wrong. I mean, you could call back and you could get three different people to tell you no, but that's what a lawyer would do is call back and get three different people to tell you no and also ask about an appeals process like Ben suggested and file whatever formal appeal there is because if your school actually took that grade off the transcript, if you have a new official transcript, it seems like you could make the case I submitted a transcript to you that was in error.
Yeah, it's really weird to me that they're refusing because I'm trying to think of a scenario that would be in the reverse, right? What if you didn't have an F and then they gave an F to you and that was your updated transcript?
They would certainly want that in their record.
Well, they're
Yeah.
going to be like, oh, no, no, we're going to keep the one without the F because we saw
Right.
that you didn't have an F on your transcript at one
Yeah.
point. What? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I mean, I will point out here that their policy on academic renewal is that they basically don't honor academic renewal. If your transcript, like, so a lot of schools have an academic renewal program where the F and the A will still display on your transcript, but only
Hmm.
the A counts on your GPA. That's how academic renewal works in a lot of cases.
Hmm.
But it sounds like for anonymous, that's not how it works. So when it does work that way, LSAC's policy is we don't care how your school calculates your GPA. We calculate GPA based on every grade on your transcript.
So
Simple as that.
you'd get calculated for both of those grades. 'Cause
You'd
you
get
took
calculated
2
for both of those
classes.
grades. Right.
Yeah.
But if that's their policy of we calculate for every grade on your transcript and you say it, like, don't even mention academic renewal to them. Just tell them,
Yeah.
I submitted my transcript to you in error. The transcript that I submitted to you is incorrect.
Yeah.
I have a correct transcript that I want to submit to you. Don't talk about the one grade that academic renewal, whatever.
Yeah.
You don't go into that. Just say, I submitted a transcript in error. I'm sorry. I want to submit a new transcript that replaces the old transcript.
Is there a problem with that?
How do I do that? You should
Yeah.
assume that there is no problem with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. How do I do it? I agree.
I
100%
assume
with
they
that.
want the most recent. You do want my correct transcript, right? You
Yeah.
currently have a bad transcript. You want the new transcript, right? How do I scrub the old transcript and submit my new transcript? That's the question that you want to ask them.
Makes sense.
Good luck. Write us back if it works. They could say no and you could appeal, and they could say no and you could appeal again. And then it's like, how good of a lawyer are you? I don't know. How many times are you willing to ask? That's a lot of it, isn't it, Ben?
That's a lot of it. Persistence. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
This next one is from Grace. The subject is hope for fellow low GPA applicants.
Hi, Ben and Nathan. 2 exclamation points. I recently completed my first month of law school and wanted to send in a quick blurb for the podcast. I religiously listened to LSAT Demon Daily last summer while I was studying for the LSAT. Started studying in June, took the September 2023 exam, got a 166. In the podcast, y'all emphasize how important GPA is, rightfully so. But this made me absolutely panic. I was a rising senior in college with a GPA in the low 2s. And I was terrified that I didn't have enough time to up my GPA before applying to law schools. Which, yeah, you don't. If you're in the 2s and you're a rising senior, your GPA, like, that ship has sailed. You could get one good year of grades, though, so that you could write a short addendum and say, my senior year, I got a 4.0.
Yep.
But anyway, long cycle story short, I was waitlisted at 6 schools and ultimately accepted to 1 with a 100% scholarship. I think the LSAT was probably my saving grace, says Grace. I thought my story might help some listeners out there with a low GPA realize that not all hope is lost. Smiley face. Love the podcast and the program. Thanks. 4 exclamation points. What do you want to say to Grace?
Congratulations. I'm so glad that you went to a school, whatever school you went to, for free. I hope that's not a conditional scholarship, but boy, that is just the way to do it.
I think for splitters especially,
Mhm.
if you have a low GPA, it indicates that for whatever reason you and school didn't get along. And maybe you put all that in your past and maybe you're the world's greatest student now. That's possible. It's also possible that you, like me, just aren't that good at school for whatever reason. I'm really smart, but I'm really bad at school. I'm a bad student. I just don't like it. I don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy sitting in a lecture with a bunch of other people asking stupid questions. It irritates me. I like teaching. I fucking hate being a student. And so it was really dumb of me to pay tuition for law school. I didn't know what I was doing with my life. And I think, as it turns out, going to law school was a mistake for me because it doesn't do anything for me. But it was a big mistake to pay for it because I could have gone for free as a splitter. If I would have applied more broadly, I could
Yeah.
have gotten all kinds of scholarship offers
Yeah.
and I could have just gone somewhere for free. And hated it there and got bad grades there instead of hating it and getting bad grades and paying for it.
Yeah.
I hope you do great, Grace. I mean, it sounds like you successfully are through your first month of law school anyway. Hopefully you're doing great. It's hard to fail out of law school, you know? If you show up, they're going to keep you on the train toward getting your JD. And if you're not paying anything, then the risk is just so low or so much lower than it would be if you were going into 6 figures worth of debt for this. Next one is from Alicia. No subject.
I feel like I need to be talked off a ledge. I've been using and loving the Demon for a little over a month now, and I've been feeling great about my goal of 170 plus, until this morning. I've been hearing a lot of chatter about a considerable increase in formal logic questions on the logical reasoning sections. Okay, chatter that is probably 100% baseless. I struggle so much with questions that need/should be diagrammed and literally have nightmares about the quote inspired musical performance question from test 111. I feel like I have no idea what to do or how to prepare for more of these sorts of questions as I feel I do not encounter them often. What do I do?
Okay,
Am I
can I interrupt for just a second?
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a question that should or needs to be diagrammed. We literally don't teach diagramming at LSAT Demon. We used to. I used to teach diagramming of formal logic. Ben used to teach diagramming of formal logic. Neither of us do it anymore because we have found that it's not necessary if you just read and understand each element that they're presenting to you and then think through the ways that those elements might be connected. So maybe you're diagramming in your head, but you do not need to diagram on the page. You just need to slow down and understand what you're actually reading. Anyway, let's continue.
Sure. So Alicia says, what do I do? I'm registered for both the October and November tests as I'm within a few points of my goal, but now I'm having serious doubts. I know this is just rumored, but it sounds like it's been suspected on experimental sections since November of last year. Logical reasoning is my strength, as is.
The thing that's the thing that is rumored is that there's a considerable increase in formal logic questions on the LR sections. Eric, producer Eric, LSAT Demon teacher Eric, LSAT Demon Daily podcast host Eric Johansson says there was some discussion about this in yesterday's free class from Chris. Oh, sorry, this was September 16th. Yesterday, as we record a week ago, as you listen to this. There was some discussion about this in the chat. One student said, I took both the August and September tests and found that the LR is pretty much the same, except for one or two logic game E questions that I think were pretty rare before. So there are questions like this. Apparently, the inspired musical performance question from test 111 is like this. Eric also, we're not going to go into it, but Eric also gave us test 123, section 3, question 22. Apparently, we can't talk about it on the podcast because of LSAC rules, but it's, it's the coffee shop one, the profitability of the coffee shop.
So this is one we can talk about.
We can.
Yeah, it's 111 that we can't talk about, but we can talk about 123. This is test J.
Oh, we can talk about this question. Well, then let's talk about it. Okay, so do we have to diagram this question? Test 123, section 3, question 22 says, if the price it pays for coffee beans continues to increase, the coffee shop, and that's SHOPPE, fancy, the coffee shop will have to increase its prices. Do you need to diagram that, Ben?
No, it's totally unsurprising. The cost of your goods goes up. Okay, well, then I wouldn't be surprised to see that the cost of your products would also have to go up.
I would imagine that beans is like the third highest cost of any coffee shop, right? Probably labor, rent, beans.
Yep.
And if the beans goes up, they will have to increase their prices. Now, you might want to pause there and go, well, in real life, they don't have to.
No.
They could just
Maybe
lose money.
maybe they're already overcharging and this is
Right.
fine. Like they'll just eat the extra cost.
Yeah, maybe they'll just accept slightly lower profit margins.
Yeah.
Maybe the price of the beans doesn't go up that much. They just say, why do we don't want to raise our coffee price 5 cents. But you have to put all that aside here because they're presenting this to you as just gold plated. If the price of the beans goes up, they will have to increase their prices. So you just have to say, okay, for whatever reason, if the beans goes up, their prices go up.
I agree with that, except really at this point, since it's the first sentence, we don't know, right? Like
True.
if they started then justifying that thought,
Sure.
I'd be like, whoa, okay. Now I see you're trying to prove that to me, and
That's
I don't
true.
think that's true. But yeah, you're right. This is,
Well,
it sounds like a fact right now, but I'm not sure.
also, there's 4 sentences here, right? Probably only one piece of it is going to be the main conclusion.
Mhm.
Most of every argument is a premise.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like that Bayesian thing of like when you read A, you assume it's wrong 80% of the time. When I read any sentence on LSAT logical reasoning, I assume that it's probably a premise, right? Because most of the time it is. Like here, I would say that 3 out of 4 of these sentences are likely to be premises. I can always change my mind later. I can always go,
Sure.
oh, I see. You said that if the price of coffee beans goes up, then your expenses are going to go up. And you said that your prices are not currently high enough to justify the whatever. And they could turn around and make that their conclusion.
Yeah.
Let's
Well,
read another sentence.
I mean, it depends, right? Also, if it says should, you probably might flip that in the other
True.
direction. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. In that case, either the coffee shop will begin selling non-coffee products or its coffee sales will decrease. So what does the in that case refer to?
That refers to what we just read, which was the coffee shop will have to increase its prices. So if the prices go up, then it looks like we're going to have at least one of 2 outcomes.
Okay. And those 2 outcomes again?
The coffee shop will begin selling non-coffee products. Okay, so I'm just imagining like candy bars or something. They're going to
Sure.
start selling those, or they're going to see their coffee sales decrease. Okay, interesting. I mean, it doesn't say that both of these things can't happen. Maybe both of them happen, but I know for sure if the prices go up, then I'm going to see either these non-coffee products, candies, mugs, whatever, begin to be sold, or coffee sales will drop.
Yeah, and I think the thing that's weird about this is that it's just kind of like, all right, why these rules seem arbitrary and not really fitting with real life.
Sure.
Like I get why if you had to raise your prices, you might wait, actually I don't get why. Why would it be that if I raise the prices for my coffee, one result of that might be that I have to start selling candy bars?
Yeah, it seems
doesn't really
odd. Yeah.
It's like, I guess, to make it make sense, you might think, well, if you're going to charge that price for coffee, then consumers expect
buy
a higher
less.
level of service. Or no, they expect a higher level of service. Like you can't get $5 for a cup of coffee if you don't also sell breakfast items or something
Sure.
like that, right? And then
Yeah.
they say, or its coffee sales will decrease, which makes me think that if I do begin selling food items, I don't necessarily have to see a decline in coffee sales. But I do know that if I don't start selling non-coffee products,
Mm-hmm.
I will see a decline in my coffee sales. Okay. So
Okay.
again, and you don't need to diagram this, and I actually don't think it even helps.
No.
If
No,
the
we're
price
just
of beans goes
imagining
up,
ourselves in the coffee shop.
yeah. If the price of beans goes up, then I have to raise my prices. And if I do that, I've got to start selling food, or my coffee sales are going to go down.
Fair enough.
Or both. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But selling non-coffee products will decrease the coffee shop's overall profitability. What are you thinking if you're the proprietor of Ben's ye old coffee shop?
Yeah,
What are you going to do, Ben?
let's cut the old there part. Yeah.
I didn't say old man.
Uh,
I said old. It was
I didn't want
OLDE.
any implications, but yeah, I would. Yeah, so okay, that's not good, right? Because if the coffee beans prices go up, then I know my prices are going to go up, and I know if that happens, then I'm going to have to sell these food items, or my coffee sales would decrease. But if I sell the food items, or at least the non-coffee products, then my profitability is going to go down. So at this point, if the cost for beans goes up, I know for a fact either my profitability is going to go down or my coffee sales will decrease, which doesn't necessarily mean my profitability will go down, but sure as hell sounds like it will.
Yeah. And the
So,
very next sentence says,
yeah.
moreover, the coffee shop can avoid a decrease in overall profitability only if its coffee sales do not decrease.
Okay, I thought that was true, but this just like cements it into reality. If my coffee sales go down, then I'm going to start losing profitability. So either way here, no matter what happens, if the price for beans goes up, my profitability is going down.
I want to thank Eric for putting this particular question on the agenda because this is the perfect question to teach why you don't need to diagram. Thank you, Eric. The only if there, I can see everybody who learned to diagram going, oh my God, okay, so only if indicates a necessary condition that's on the right side of the arrow. So I'm going to start putting, and it's like, hold up. We were talking about a pretty common sense situation here. If the price of beans goes up, then you're either going to have to sell food or you're going to have to decrease your coffee sales. Sorry, if the price of beans goes up, the price of coffee goes up, then you have to start selling food or you have to have a decrease in your coffee sales. But if you sell food, it's going to decrease your profitability. And if you have a decrease in coffee sales, commonsensically, that's going to be a decrease in profitability.
Yep.
But it's like, Ben, you anticipated that last sentence. And I think that the diagrammers don't anticipate that sentence.
I think it's almost impossible. I think they're just so sucked into an analytical framework, which is focused on letters and abstractions. It's like, it's the reason that a lot of people don't like math.
Your pencil's in your hand. How do I draw this arrow? What goes where? These pieces and parts. And then you're like really slavishly, like technically going, okay, so if coffee sales do not decrease, and that's only if its coffee sales do not decrease. So I'm going to put prices down, slash it out on the right side of the arrow.
Yeah.
The fuck? That doesn't help you.
No.
It actively hurts you.
Yeah.
It wastes your time and it confuses you. Yep. All they've said here is that if they sell less coffee, they're going to make less money. No shit. It's exactly what you should have been predicting if you were comprehending the sentences one at a time. If you were like putting the pieces of the puzzle together, you already saw that last piece. You knew what that last piece was going to be. They give it to you in the most convoluted possible way. You know, you can, that's a double negative and an only if in the same sentence. Right? But all they really said was if the price of coffee goes up, your profitability goes down.
Yeah.
So, all right, Ben, you're back at ye old coffee shop and what are you doing? What are you going to do? Cry?
Yeah. Just hope that the coffee bean price doesn't go up.
Yeah. The like big takeaway from this whole argument is, oh, I really hope that the price of beans doesn't go up. Because if the price of beans goes up, I'm screwed either way. Price of beans goes up, I have to raise my prices, means I have to sell food or I sell less coffee. Both of those things lead to decreased profitability. So if the price of beans goes up, I make less money.
Yep.
And that's all totally common sense. And it does not help you and it actually hurts you to do any sort of diagramming. Thank you, Alicia, for broaching this topic. I hope that we can just make your life easier by letting you understand that you could just let go of that whole like if there's more of these, these type of questions, if there's more of these on the new LSAT, which by the way, maybe it's one or two more, per
Yeah.
section.
Yeah.
Who cares? It's 1 or 2 questions. It's just not a big deal. But even if there are more of these questions, even if there are more and more and more of these questions, I promise you, they're just not that hard.
Yeah.
It's a really pretty simple, straightforward situation. It turns out to be a must be true question. It says, which one of the following statements follows logically from the statements above? And I think we would both roll into the answer choices here with a pretty strong prediction. What's your prediction here, Ben? What do you think
Yeah.
the
It would
answer is
just
going to be?
connect the beginning to the end. It would say, hey, if the price of beans goes up, then I expect overall profitability to go down. I would be, I mean, I would be totally open to a whole other set of answers, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if that was the answer.
Yeah. And then you can just tear through the answer choices because A starts with if the coffee shop's overall profitability decreases, comma, Ben's already shaking his head. Ben already said that's not the answer. How come?
Yeah. Well, we know that that's the result of the price of
Yeah.
the coffee beans going up. But if that happens, I have no idea what will result from that.
Well, right. Exactly. Yeah. You just
Yeah.
don't know what happens after the overall profitability decreases.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
don't know. So whatever comes after that comma, there's no way I can prove it. So the answer is not A. B,
Yep.
if the coffee shop's overall profitability decreases.
Same problem.
Again,
Next.
like A and B are logically equivalent to me and Ben.
Yeah.
They're not logically equivalent to all of the diagrammers out there and all the people who think that this shit's harder than it really is. Ben and I are both like, we don't know what happens after the profitability decreases. So whatever
I was
all those other
curious.
words say,
I wanted to know what answer people like to pick, and apparently it's B. We didn't even
wow.
read all B. We don't even know what it's
No,
saying.
don't, yeah, it's, we're actually understanding the facts that we were given, the question that we're being asked. And then when we get into the bullshit wrong answer choices, we're just like, no, I don't know what happens after the profitability decreases. A and B are equivalently impossible to pick.
Yeah. And people, if they were tempted by B, that means they read it in its entirety and they probably went back and forth between that and the passage and some other answer.
100%.
And that's where you burn time.
C says the coffee shop's overall profitability will decrease if the price it pays for coffee beans continues to increase.
That's exactly what I predicted.
Yeah. I mean, we might have
Yeah.
predicted it. If the price of beans continues to go up, then our profitability will decrease.
Sure. We might have put it in a more traditional standard if then format, but this is the same thing.
Yeah. C says the then before the if, but it's the same thing. It just
Yeah.
says, yeah, if your beans goes up, then your profitability will go down. We click C because we're 99% sure we're going to pick it. The way we get to 100% is we read D and E and dismiss both of them. D says the price it pays for coffee beans cannot decrease without the coffee shop's overall profitability also decreasing. Ben's pausing because he did the same error that I did for a second.
The price it pays for coffee beans cannot decrease without the coffee shop's overall profitability also decreasing. Wait, that sounds good to me. So
I
I
know.
must be making the same mistake.
I know exactly what you're doing wrong. Price of coffee beans can't
And
decrease.
Oh, it could decrease. I don't know why I was
Well,
reading it as increase. Yeah.
Ben's worried at Ben's ye old coffee shop. Ben is
Yeah.
worried about an increase in coffee
Yeah. What the
bean
hell?
prices.
I don't even know why I got sucked into that.
I did the same thing. The price
Yeah.
it pays for coffee beans cannot decrease without the overall profitability decreasing.
Yeah.
That doesn't have to
course.
be true.
Yeah.
If the price of your coffee beans went down, but you
Mhm.
also started being rude to the customers,
Yep.
then your profitability could decrease.
Yeah.
Either the price it pays for coffee beans will continue to increase, or the coffee shop's coffee sales will increase.
They'll continue to increase, or the coffee shop sales will increase. No, that's not necessarily an outcome that has to happen.
We just don't know that the price of coffee bean we don't
Yeah.
know anything about what the price of coffee beans is actually going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And if the price of coffee beans does not go up, then we have no idea what happens to our prices, to our necessity of selling food items, to our overall profitability, our coffee sales. We don't know shit. If the price of coffee beans doesn't go up, we don't know anything. So there's no way we can pick an answer that says either the price of coffee beans goes up or anything else. We just don't know
Mm-hmm.
what happens if the price of coffee beans doesn't go up. Answer here is
Mm-hmm.
C. It is straightforwardly predictable. It's really interesting here that B is not only the most commonly chosen wrong answer, but it's like almost as many people choose B as choose C here, the
Yeah.
correct answer. And I think it's really because of people diagramming instead of just dealing with these arguments in common sense terms. Okay. Thank you, Alicia, for writing in.
Yeah, let's turn to tips from a departing demon. This is from Braden. Braden writes, take the time to really understand each question and you will get faster. Don't try to go faster without understanding. That's why I improved when I started digging into the logical or the reading comprehension passage.
So this was from a basic subscriber,
Okay.
someone who was with us for a few months,
Yep.
who improved from a 166 to a 176 and is saying what we say, which is if you want to improve on RC and on LR, if you want to improve, just don't try to go faster without
Yeah.
actually understanding what you're reading. Ready for word of the week?
Yeah, let's do it.
Word of the week is coming from a novel that I am currently reading called White Teeth by Zadie Smith, a British author. Um, really enjoying it. I read about 50% fiction and 50% nonfiction. This quote says, so it's about a waiter. Okay. It's a waiter observing his dining room at like a curry shop, uh,
Okay.
open late curry shop in London in like the 80s.
Okay.
And it says, the ashtray is full and must be cupped by another ashtray, lifted silently and switched for the new ashtray with perfect insouciance. The word of the week is insouciance.
Okay. So I'm imagining a waiter coming up and trying to prevent the full ashtray from spilling
Mm-hmm.
and not disturbing anyone. So this word sounds like with perfect dexterity or um, something like that.
Yeah. Um, you certainly are you're doing the right reading comprehension here, which is you're looking at the context, you're imagining the situation, you're like actually into the story,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? So what insouciance means is lighthearted unconcern, or the great synonym for insouciance is nonchalance.
Nonchalance. Okay.
So now you see, so it's the waiter is not only just doing it silently, not only doing it without, spilling or so carefully, but you also, one must do it nonchalantly so that you don't accidentally, like offend the people at the table. Like, oh my God, you guys filled up the ashtray already. It's like, it's this just like silent, like you slip in and out and you do it with perfect, as if it's just not a thing,
Mm-hmm.
just insouciance.
Hmm.
Anyway,
Cool.
that's the word of the week.
Yeah.
And I do really like that novel. Again, if anybody wants to join my book club, I'm reading White Teeth by Zadie Smith, and I like it.
Is this a book club of one right now?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a book club of one. But you know what? I started reading this book because I saw it. I fucking love Libby.
Mm,
I love Libby. It's so good. Every book for free. The World of
mm,
Books for free.
mm. Yeah.
Delivered to my Kindle. You just sometimes have to wait, and I don't mind.
Yeah.
But I don't know what I was reading, but I saw something talking about classic young adult fiction. And I
Mm,
believe that the books that were listed, it was like To Kill a Mockingbird, Catcher in the Rye, and White Teeth.
Hmm.
And I was like,
White teeth.
White Teeth? I've never heard of it. I don't even know what
Yeah.
this is.
Yeah.
But it sounds like, classic young adult fiction. I love reading young adult fiction, by the way. I don't know why young adult fiction is so good. It's just like readable without being too highfalutin.
Hmm.
Anyway, it's awesome. I'm really glad I started. It was like, wow, that book is in good company in one person's mind. Why not just put it on my list on Libby? And came up and started reading it and definitely enjoy it. It's about the immigrant experience in the 80s in England.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
Cool.
good.
Cool.
And
Nice.
then I was in the airport yesterday and I saw a Zadie Smith book on the shelf. So Zadie Smith apparently is some famous author now. White Teeth is mentioned in books of like top 100 books of all time. Apparently, it's like really pretty well regarded for something I had never heard shit about in my entire life.
Great. Cool. Be LSAT famous. Please ask questions or share news with us on our website, thinkinglsat.com, or on socials at LSAT Demon. If you have questions about the LSAT Demon, email help@lsatdemon.com. Check out our other podcast, LSAT Demon Daily. That was episode 473 of the Thinking LSAT podcast. Thanks all y'all for listening. Nice knowing you. Don't pay for loss.